The bench was so cold it burned through Vanessa Wright's thin coat, but she didn't move. She couldn't. Where would she even go? 12 years. 12 years of doctor's appointments, of watching her husband Derek's face grow harder each time the pregnancy test came back negative. 12 years of his mother's pointed comments at family dinners. 12 years of being called broken, useless, half a woman. And today, 3 hours ago in a courthouse downtown, 12 years of marriage had ended with a judge's signature and Derek's relieved smile. "You're free now," he'd said as if he was doing her a favor. "You can stop pretending you're enough." The December wind cut through the park and Vanessa pulled her coat tighter. Her phone was dead. Her apartment, the one she'd shared with Derek, was no longer hers. She'd packed 2 suitcases that morning, left them at a women's shelter on 5th Street, and walked here to this park because she didn't know what else to do. Worthless. Barren. Incomplete. The words circled her mind like vultures. She was 34 years old and she had nothing. No home. No family. No future that made sense. The social worker at the shelter had been kind, but Vanessa had seen the pity in her eyes. Another divorced woman with nowhere to go. Another statistic. The park was nearly empty as evening fell. Street lights flickered on. Vanessa's hands were numb. She should move, should go back to the shelter before it got too late, but her body felt like stone. Then she heard them. Children crying. Vanessa looked up. 4 kids were huddled together near the fountain, maybe 30 feet away. They wore good coats, the expensive kind, but they were shivering. The smallest one, a little boy, was sobbing. The oldest, a boy around 10, had his arms around the others, trying to be brave but failing. A man stood beside them, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a business suit that was soaked from the fountain's mist. His hair was messy, his tie loose. He was on his phone, speaking rapidly, but even from here Vanessa could hear the panic in his voice. "I don't know which street," he was saying. "We got turned around. The GPS stopped working. I need..." The littlest boy's crying got louder. One of the girls, maybe 8, joined in. Vanessa stood up. Her legs were stiff from sitting so long, but she moved toward them anyway. She didn't think about it. She just went. "Excuse me," she said softly as she approached. "Are you lost?" The man spun toward her, phone still pressed to his ear. His eyes were red, exhausted. Yes. I'm trying to find. I can't." The oldest boy looked at Vanessa with desperate eyes. "We can't find our car. Dad said it was near the fountain, but there's 3 fountains and we've been walking for an hour and Trevor is cold and..." "Okay," Vanessa said, kneeling down to the children's level. Her voice was calm, steady, the voice she'd used when she volunteered at the church nursery years ago, back when she still believed she might be a mother someday. "It's okay. We'll figure this out." The littlest boy, Trevor, stopped crying long enough to stare at her. His cheeks were bright red from cold and tears. "Do you know where you parked?" Vanessa asked the man gently. He ran a hand through his hair. "North parking lot. I thought. But I've been turned around and..." His voice cracked. "I can't mess this up. I can't lose them too." Something in those words hit Vanessa in the chest. This wasn't just a man who'd gotten lost. This was a man barely holding on. "I know where the north lot is," Vanessa said. "I come here sometimes. It's not far. 10 minutes maybe. I can take you there." The man looked at her like she'd offered him a lifeline. "You'd do that?" "Of course." "Dad, she's nice," one of the twin girls whispered. "Very nice," the other twin agreed. Vanessa smiled at them, a real smile, the first one all day. "Come on. Stay close together. We'll get you warm soon." She led them through the park, pointing out landmarks. The man, who'd finally hung up his phone, walked beside her. The children stayed between them, holding hands in a chain. "I'm Brandon," the man said quietly. "Brandon Foster. These are my kids. Caleb, Nadia, Natalie, and Trevor." "Vanessa Wright." "Thank you," Brandon said, and his voice was thick with emotion. Today was hard and I thought I could handle a walk in the park, but everything went wrong and..." "It's okay," Vanessa said. "We all have hard days." When they reached the parking lot, Brandon's black SUV was exactly where Vanessa had said it would be. He unlocked it with shaking hands and the children piled in, relief on every face. Brandon turned to Vanessa. "Can I pay you? For your help? Or give you a ride somewhere?" "No payment needed," Vanessa said. "I'm glad I could help." "Please," Brandon insisted. "It's cold. Where are you headed?" Vanessa hesitated. She didn't want to say homeless shelter. Didn't want to see pity in another person's eyes today. "The diner on 5th Street," she said instead. It was near the shelter. "Close enough." Get in, Brandon said. Please. It's the least I can do. Vanessa climbed into the passenger seat. The car was warm, gloriously warm. Trevor fell asleep immediately in his car seat. The twins chattered quietly in the back. Caleb stared out the window. Bad day. Brandon asked as he drove. The worst, Vanessa admitted. Me too, Brandon said. Today was the anniversary of my wife's death. 2 years. I thought taking the kids to the park would help, but I fell apart. Vanessa's throat tightened. I'm sorry. What happened to you? Brandon asked. If you don't mind me asking. My husband divorced me today, Vanessa said. The words came easier than she expected. 12 years of marriage. Over. I'm sorry, Brandon said, and he sounded like he meant it. They drove in silence for a minute. Then Brandon said, that woman who helped us tonight, who got us back to safety when I couldn't think straight. My kids haven't smiled like that in 2 years. Vanessa didn't know what to say to that. When they reached 5th Street, Brandon pulled over. Vanessa opened the door, ready to step back into the cold. Wait, Brandon said. He pulled a business card from his wallet. If you ever need anything at all, please call me. Vanessa took the card. Thank you. She walked away from the warm car, back into the freezing night, but something felt different. Lighter maybe. For 2 hours tonight she'd been needed. She'd been useful. For children had looked at her with trust instead of pity. Maybe she wasn't worthless after all. Vanessa didn't know it yet, but her life had just changed forever. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you weren't enough? Like the world decided your worth based on something you couldn't control? Vanessa spent 12 years being told she was broken. But what if the family you think you're too damaged for is the one that loves you exactly as you are? Drop a comment below telling me about a time someone saw your value when you couldn't see it yourself. And if this story is already touching your heart, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will restore your faith in second chances. Vanessa didn't expect to see Brandon Foster again. The business card sat in her coat pocket for 3 days while she looked for work. The shelter let her stay for 2 weeks maximum, and she'd already used 3 days. She applied at grocery stores, coffee shops, anywhere that might hire someone whose resume had a 12-year gap labeled homemaker. Nobody called back. On the 4th day, Vanessa got a job at Rosie's Diner, the same place Brandon had dropped her off that night. It wasn't much, minimum wage plus tips, but the owner Rita was kind and didn't ask too many questions. Vanessa could start immediately. The uniform was a blue dress with a white apron, and it fit well enough. Her first shift was exhausting. Her feet hurt, her back ached, but she smiled at every customer and poured coffee with steady hands. She was good at this. She could do this. At 3 in the afternoon, during the slow period between lunch and dinner, the door chimed. Vanessa looked up from wiping down table 6. Brandon Foster walked in, and all 4 children were with him. Vanessa, Trevor shrieked and ran straight to her. She barely caught him as he wrapped his arms around her waist. The other children weren't far behind. Nadia and Natalie grabbed her hands. Even Caleb smiled. Hi, Vanessa said, overwhelmed. What are you all doing here? Brandon approached more slowly. He looked better than he had that night in the park. His suit was neat, his hair combed, but his eyes still carried that deep sadness. We've been looking for you, he said simply. For 3 days, Caleb added. Trevor made us check every diner in the city, Nadia said. Because you were nice, Natalie finished. Vanessa blinked back sudden tears. You looked for me? Can we sit? Brandon asked, gesturing to a booth. Of course. Vanessa led them to the corner booth, the big one families liked. Rita watched from behind the counter but didn't interfere. Once they were settled, children on one side, Brandon across from them, Vanessa stood with her order pad ready. What can I get you? Your time, Brandon said. Just 5 minutes. Please sit. Vanessa glanced at Rita, who nodded. The diner was nearly empty anyway. She slid into the booth next to Brandon, and immediately Trevor climbed across the table to sit in her lap. She didn't push him away. The kids haven't stopped talking about you, Brandon began. That night in the park, you helped us when I was falling apart. You were calm and kind and... He paused. I need that. Need what? You, Brandon said simply. I need you. My children need you. Vanessa's heart started beating faster. I don't understand. Brandon leaned forward. I'm going to be direct because I don't have time for games. My wife died 2 years ago. Cancer. It was slow and painful and it destroyed all of us. Since then I've hired 6 nannies. 6. They all quit. The kids are difficult. They're grieving. They don't trust easily. They act out. We're not that bad, Caleb muttered. Yes you are, Nadia said. The last nanny left after Natalie put a frog in her purse, Brandon continued. It was a small frog, Natalie said defensively. Despite everything, Vanessa almost smiled. I work long hours, Brandon said. I run a tech company. I can't be home as much as I should be and it's killing me. My kids are hurting and I don't know how to fix it. But that night in the park for 2 hours they were okay. Because of you. Mr. Foster. Brandon, he corrected. And I'm offering you a job. Live-in nanny. You'd have your own room, full benefits, salary of $80,000 a year. Vanessa's breath caught. $80,000. She currently had $17 in her checking account. I can't accept that, she whispered. Why not? Because it's too much. I don't have experience. I've never been a nanny. I don't have certifications or… You have something better, Brandon interrupted. You have a good heart. My children felt safe with you. That's worth more than any certification. Please stay with us, Trevor said from her lap. Please. We'll be good, Nadia promised. Mostly good, Natalie amended. Caleb didn't say anything, but he was watching her with hopeful eyes. Vanessa looked at their faces, these 4 broken children who needed someone, and something inside her chest cracked open. How many times had she dreamed of this? Of children calling for her, needing her, wanting her to stay? I'm divorced, she said quietly. As of 4 days ago. I don't have a home. I'm staying at a shelter. Then you definitely need this job, Brandon said. And we need you. It's perfect. I don't know anything about raising children. Neither do I, and I've been doing it for 10 years, Brandon said with a tired smile. We'll figure it out together. Vanessa's hands were shaking. Why me? You could hire someone professional, someone trained. I don't want trained, Brandon said firmly. I want real. I want someone who sees my kids as people, not a paycheck. That's you. You don't even know me. I know enough, Brandon said. You helped strangers without asking for anything in return. You were gentle with scared children. You didn't judge me for falling apart. He paused. And my gut says you're running from something painful and you need a safe place to land. Am I wrong? Vanessa shook her head. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Then let me help you, Brandon said. The way you helped us. When would I start? Today, Brandon said. Right now. Pack whatever you have at the shelter. I'll have movers get anything else you need. You can move into the house tonight. It was crazy. It was too fast. It was everything Vanessa had been taught not to do, accepting help from strangers, trusting too quickly. But sitting in that booth, with Trevor warm in her lap and 3 other children looking at her like she was their answer to prayer, Vanessa couldn't say no. Okay, she whispered. Yes, thank you. I'll do it. Trevor cheered. The twins hugged each other. Caleb's smile was small but real. Brandon's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. Vanessa wiped her eyes. I think I do. Rita brought over milkshakes for the children without being asked, winking at Vanessa. Good luck, honey. You've got your hands full with this crew. I know, Vanessa said, and she was smiling through her tears. 3 hours later, Vanessa Wright walked into the Foster estate with her 2 suitcases and a heart full of terrified hope. The house was enormous, all windows and modern lines, with a yard that seemed to go on forever. Her room was on the 2nd floor, next to the children's rooms. It had a real bed, a private bathroom, and a window overlooking the garden. Is this really mine? She asked Brandon. All yours, he confirmed. Dinner's at 6. Nothing fancy. We usually order pizza. I can cook, Vanessa offered. If that's okay. Brandon's eyes widened. You cook. I like to. Then yes, please, cook. The kids will love it. That night, Vanessa made spaghetti with garlic bread. Simple, easy, the kind of meal she used to make for Derek before he started staying late at work every night. The children ate 3 helpings each. Brandon looked at her like she'd performed a miracle. As she washed dishes later, Trevor came and stood beside her. Are you going to leave? He asked quietly. Vanessa dried her hands and knelt down to his level. No, sweetheart. I'm going to stay. Promise. I promise. He hugged her tight, and Vanessa held him, this little boy who'd lost his mother and was so afraid of losing anyone else. She'd been hired to take care of these children. She didn't know yet that they were going to save her right back. Vanessa's first full day at the Foster house started at 6 in the morning when Trevor climbed into her bed. You're still here, he whispered as if checking to make sure she was real. I'm still here, Vanessa confirmed, moving over to make room for him. He curled up beside her, thumb in his mouth, and fell back asleep. Vanessa stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the warm weight of this 5-year-old child who decided to trust her. At 7, footsteps thundered down the hallway. Nadia and Natalie burst through her door without knocking. "Trevor, you're not supposed to bother her," Nadia scolded. "He's not bothering me," Vanessa said. "Good morning, girls." They were identical twins, both with dark curly hair and brown eyes, but Vanessa was already learning to tell them apart. Nadia was louder, bolder. Natalie was quieter, more watchful. "Dad's already gone to work," Natalie reported. "He leaves at 6. And Caleb's still in bed," Nadia added. "He never gets up on time." "What time does school start?" Vanessa asked. 8:30, both girls answered together. Vanessa checked the clock. They had time. "How about I make breakfast?" The twins looked at each other, then back at her. "The last nanny gave us cereal," Nadia said carefully. "Every day," Natalie added. "Well, I was thinking pancakes," Vanessa said. "If that sounds good." Trevor sat up. "Pancakes. With chocolate chips," Vanessa promised. 20 minutes later, all 4 children were at the kitchen table, and Vanessa was at the stove. The kitchen was beautiful, all granite counters and stainless steel appliances, but it felt unused. The pantry was full of dry goods and canned items. The fridge had milk, eggs, some wilted vegetables. She could work with this. Caleb came down last, hair messy, clothes wrinkled. He was 10, tall for his age, with his father's serious eyes. "You don't have to make us breakfast," he said, but he sat down anyway. "I know," Vanessa said, flipping a pancake. "I want to." "Why?" It was a fair question. Vanessa thought about it while she piled pancakes on plates. "Because taking care of people makes me happy," she said finally. "And because you all deserve someone who wants to take care of you." Caleb didn't respond, but he ate 3 pancakes. After breakfast, Vanessa helped everyone get ready for school. Nadia couldn't find her homework. Natalie had a math test she was worried about. Trevor needed his favorite blue shirt, which was in the laundry. Caleb was quiet, withdrawn, but he let Vanessa check his backpack to make sure he had everything. The bus came at 8:15. Vanessa walked them to the end of the long driveway and waited until they were all safely on board. "See you after school," she called. Trevor pressed his face to the window, waving. When the bus disappeared, Vanessa walked back to the house. It was enormous and empty. She could hear her footsteps echo. She spent the morning cleaning. Not because the house was dirty, but because she needed something to do. She found family photos on the mantel in the living room. Brandon and a beautiful woman with kind eyes. The children younger, happier. The woman was in every photo until suddenly she wasn't. Lauren Foster. That was her name. The mother these children had lost. Vanessa touched the frame gently. "I'm not trying to replace you," she whispered. "I just want to help them heal." At 3:30, the bus brought the children home. They tumbled through the door, loud and chaotic. "How was school?" Vanessa asked. "Fine," Caleb muttered, heading straight for his room. "I got a gold star," Nadia announced. "I got 2 gold stars," Natalie corrected. "Show off," Nadia said, but she was smiling. Trevor attached himself to Vanessa's leg. "I missed you." "I missed you too, buddy." She gave them snacks, apple slices with peanut butter, and sat with them while they did homework. Caleb eventually came back downstairs with his math book. He didn't ask for help, but when Vanessa looked over his shoulder and gently pointed out a mistake, he fixed it without complaint. That evening, Brandon came home at 7. Later than he'd promised, but he looked exhausted. "Sorry," he said immediately. "Meeting ran late. I tried to get out, but—" "It's okay," Vanessa said. "Dinner's ready. I kept it warm." She'd made baked chicken with roasted vegetables and mashed potatoes. Real food, the kind that took time. Brandon stared at the table. "You did this?" "The kids helped," Vanessa said, though they'd mostly just watched and asked questions. They sat down together, all 6 of them, at the big dining table that Vanessa suspected hadn't been used in years. "This is weird," Caleb said. "Good weird or bad weird?" Brandon asked. Caleb considered. "Good weird. Maybe." They ate. The twins talked over each other about their day. Trevor fell asleep in his chair halfway through. Caleb was quiet, but he cleaned his plate. After dinner, Vanessa ran baths for the younger kids while Brandon helped Caleb with a book report. She read Trevor 2 stories, then tucked him into bed. He grabbed her hand as she tried to leave. "Don't go yet." "I'm just downstairs," Vanessa promised. "But stay a little longer. Please." So she sat on the edge of his bed and sang a lullaby her grandmother had taught her years ago. Trevor's eyes drifted closed. When she was sure he was asleep, she kissed his forehead and quietly left. The twins' room was next. They shared a space, 2 beds with matching pink comforters. "Can you tell us about when you were little?" Natalie asked. "What do you want to know? Did you have sisters?" Nadia asked. "No, I was an only child." "That sounds lonely," Natalie said. "Sometimes it was," Vanessa admitted. "That's why I always wanted a big family." "Did you get one?" Nadia asked. Vanessa's throat tightened. "I'm working on it." She tucked them in, turned off the light, and found Caleb reading in his room. "You okay?" she asked from the doorway. "Yeah. Your dad said you have a book report due Friday." "I'll finish it." Vanessa nodded. "Good night, Caleb." "Vanessa?" he said as she turned to go. "Yeah. The last nanny never helped with homework. Or made real food. Or tucked anyone in. I'm not the last nanny." "I know," Caleb said quietly. "That's what I'm saying." Downstairs, Brandon was in his office, staring at his computer but not really working. Vanessa knocked softly. "They're all in bed." "Thank you." He rubbed his face. "You've done more in 2 days than I've managed in 2 years. You're doing the best you can." "My best isn't enough." "Yes it is," Vanessa said firmly. "You're here. You're trying. That matters." Brandon looked at her for a long moment. "Lauren used to say that. She sounds like she was smart." "She was." His voice cracked. "And I don't know how to do this without her." "You're not without her," Vanessa said gently. "She's in every one of those kids upstairs. Her love is still here." Brandon's eyes filled with tears. "How did you get so wise?" "Pain teaches things," Vanessa said. "Whether we want to learn them or not." That night, lying in her new bed, Vanessa realized something. These children were broken. Brandon was broken. This whole house was full of grief and loss. But maybe, just maybe, she was exactly the kind of broken that could help them heal. 3 weeks passed and Vanessa settled into a rhythm. Mornings were chaos. For children needed breakfast, lunches packed, homework checked, shoes found. Vanessa learned that Trevor only ate triangle-shaped sandwiches and Nadia needed exactly 7 minutes to pick out her clothes or she'd have a meltdown. Natalie was the early riser, Caleb the one who hit snooze 3 times. But they were good chaos. Happy chaos. After school, they'd do homework at the kitchen table while Vanessa prepared dinner. The twins would chatter about their day. Trevor would draw pictures. Caleb would work silently, but he'd started asking Vanessa questions when he got stuck. Evenings were quieter. Brandon tried to be home by 6, but often it was 7 or 8. Vanessa would keep dinner warm, and they'd all eat together no matter what time he arrived. But something was missing. The house still felt cold despite Vanessa's efforts. Brandon would eat with them but then disappear into his office. The children would look at his empty chair with sad eyes. On Thursday of the 3rd week, Vanessa decided enough was enough. She knocked on Brandon's office door at 8:30. Through the window she could see him on a video call, looking tense. She waited. When the call ended, she knocked again. "Come in." Brandon looked exhausted. His tie was loose, his hair messy from running his hands through it. "The kids are asking for you," Vanessa said. "I know. I just need to finish this report and—" "Brandon." Vanessa's voice was gentle but firm. "They're asking for you every night." He slumped in his chair. "I'm doing the best I can." "I know. But they need more than dinner together. They need time with you." "I give them time." "Do you?" Vanessa asked. "Or do you give them the leftovers of your day after work has taken everything?" Brandon flinched. "That's not fair." "Maybe not," Vanessa said. "But it's true. You don't understand. The company needs me. If I don't work these hours, if I don't close these deals, then what?" Vanessa interrupted. "You'll have money but lose your children?" "I'm not losing them." "Not yet," Vanessa said quietly. "But Caleb barely talks. The twins cry themselves to sleep when you're not here. Trevor asks me every night when Daddy is coming home. You're here, Brandon, but you're not present." His face crumpled. "I don't know how to do this." "Yes you do," Vanessa said. "You just have to try." "What if I try and I'm still not enough?" "Then you try again," Vanessa said simply. "That's what parents do." Brandon was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What should I do?" "Have dinner with them. Real dinner. Not just eating but talking. Ask about their days. Tell them about yours. Read Trevor a bedtime story. Help Caleb with his book report. Play a board game with the twins. Just be with them." "Starting when?" How about tonight? Vanessa suggested. Right now. Brandon looked at his computer screen at all the work waiting. Then he looked at Vanessa. Okay. They went upstairs together. The kids were getting ready for bed. Brandon stopped at Trevor's room first. Hey buddy, he said. Want me to read you a story? Trevor's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Vanessa watched from the doorway as Brandon climbed onto Trevor's bed and read, Where the Wild Things Are. His voice was rusty at first, like he'd forgotten how to do this. But by the end, Trevor was asleep against his chest and Brandon was crying silently. He's so big, Brandon whispered. When did he get so big? Kids grow fast, Vanessa said. Even when we're not looking. Brandon tucked Trevor in carefully, kissed his forehead, and moved to the twins' room. They were still awake, whispering to each other. Dad, Nadia said, surprised. Can I sit with you for a bit? Brandon asked. Okay, Natalie said cautiously. Brandon sat on the floor between their beds. Tell me about school. Tell me everything. And they did. They told him about the substitute teacher who let them have extra recess, about the art project they were working on, about the boy who'd pulled Nadia's hair until Natalie told the teacher. Brandon listened to every word. Really listened. I'm sorry I haven't been around much, he said when they finished. It's okay, Nadia said quickly. You're busy. That's not an excuse, Brandon said. You're more important than busy. Both girls stared at him. I'm going to do better, Brandon promised. Starting now. After they were asleep, Brandon found Caleb still awake, reading. Can we talk? Brandon asked. Caleb shrugged, but he put down his book. Brandon sat on the edge of the bed. Your book report. How's it going? Fine. What's it about? A kid whose mom dies and he has to figure out life without her, Caleb said flatly. Brandon's breath caught. That sounds hard to read. It is, Caleb admitted. But it's also good. Because the kid, he's angry and sad and he thinks his dad doesn't understand. But then they start talking and his dad tells him that he's angry and sad too. And it helps. Caleb, Brandon said carefully. Are you angry at me? Caleb looked away. Sometimes. Why? Because you're here but you're not here. Because you work all the time. Because mom died and you can't even look at her pictures anymore. His voice broke. Because I miss her and I miss you too even though you're right here. Brandon pulled Caleb into his arms and Caleb, who'd been trying so hard to be strong, fell apart. He sobbed into his father's shoulder and Brandon held him tight. I'm sorry, Brandon said through his own tears. I'm so sorry. I've been running from the pain instead of dealing with it, and I left you to deal with yours alone. That was wrong. I don't know how to stop hurting, Caleb whispered. Neither do I, Brandon admitted. But maybe we can figure it out together. They sat there for a long time, father and son, both grieving, both trying to find their way back to each other. When Brandon finally came downstairs, Vanessa was wiping down the kitchen counters. Thank you, he said. I didn't do anything. You did everything, Brandon corrected. You gave me permission to stop hiding. The kids need you. So do you, Brandon said quietly. Need something, I mean. You take care of everyone else, but who takes care of you? Vanessa didn't know how to answer that. Brandon stepped closer. Tell me about your marriage. What happened? It's not a happy story. Most of mine aren't either. So Vanessa told him. About the infertility diagnosis at 23. About 12 years of trying and failing. About Derek's growing resentment. About being called worthless, broken, less than a woman. About the divorce that felt like relief and devastation all at once. He was wrong, Brandon said when she finished. You're none of those things. Sometimes I still believe I am. Then I'll keep telling you the truth until you believe it, Brandon said. You're kind, patient, nurturing. You've brought life back to this house. My kids love you. That's worth more than any biological connection. Vanessa wiped her eyes. Thank you. No, Brandon said. Thank you. For saving my family. That night, as Vanessa lay in bed, she realized something had shifted. The house felt warmer. Brandon had started to come back to his children. And she, somehow, had started to feel like she belonged. It scared her how much she wanted to stay. It was Saturday morning, 4 weeks into Vanessa's new life, when the doorbell rang. Vanessa was in the kitchen making waffles. The children were in the living room watching cartoons. Brandon was upstairs getting dressed for a rare day off. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the front door's window she saw him. Derek. Her heart stopped. Her hands started shaking. Every instinct told her to hide, to pretend she wasn't home, to avoid this confrontation. But she was different now. Stronger. Vanessa opened the door. Derek looked the same. Same brown hair starting to gray at the temples. Same critical eyes. Same expensive clothes that he wore like armor. Vanessa, he said, smiling like they were old friends. You're hard to track down. What are you doing here? I wanted to see you. Can I come in? No. His smile faltered. That's rude. This isn't my house. I can't invite you in. Right? Derek looked past her, taking in the enormous entryway, the expensive art on the walls. I heard you were working as a nanny now. For some rich guy. I'm working, yes. Billionaire, right? Derek's voice had an edge. Brandon Foster. Tech mogul. I looked him up. What do you want, Derek? I made a mistake, he said simply. The divorce. I acted too quickly. I want you back. Vanessa almost laughed. You're not serious. I am. He stepped closer. I know I said things I shouldn't have. I know I hurt you. But we had 12 years together. That has to mean something. It meant something, Vanessa said. Until you threw it away. I was frustrated. The infertility, it got to me. But I've had time to think, and I realize now that maybe kids aren't that important. We could adopt. Or not have any. I just want my wife back. I'm not your wife anymore. Legally sure, but... Derek. Vanessa's voice was ice. You told me I was worthless. You said I was broken. You made me feel like less than nothing for 12 years. And now that you've heard I'm working for someone wealthy, suddenly I'm good enough again? That's not fair. It's completely fair, Vanessa said. You didn't want me when I had nothing. You can't have me now. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was staying with you for as long as I did. Derek's face hardened. You think this is going to last? This little fantasy? He's going to realize you're barren and he'll throw you out just like I did. You'll come crawling back. Vanessa? Brandon's voice came from behind her. He'd come downstairs, dressed in jeans and a blue sweater, and now he stood at her shoulder. Is everything okay? Brandon asked. Who are you? Derek demanded. Brandon Foster. Vanessa's employer. Brandon's tone was polite but cold. And you are? Her husband. Ex-husband, Vanessa corrected. I'm here to bring her home, Derek said. She is home, Brandon said simply. Before Derek could respond, 4 children appeared. They'd heard strange voices and come to investigate. Trevor pushed past Brandon and wrapped himself around Vanessa's leg. Who's that? Trevor asked, staring at Derek. Nobody important, Vanessa said, stroking his hair. The twins flanked her other side. Caleb stood slightly behind, watching warily. These your kids? Derek asked Brandon, but he was looking at Vanessa with something like shock. They are, Brandon confirmed. And she takes care of them. She does more than that, Caleb said suddenly. She makes us breakfast and helps with homework and reads us stories and actually cares about us. She's the best, Nadia added. Way better than the old nannies, Natalie agreed. Don't go with him, Trevor said, holding Vanessa tighter. Stay here. Derek stared at the children clinging to Vanessa, at the way they defended her, at the obvious love in their faces. You found your family, he said bitterly. Just not with me. No, Vanessa said quietly. Not with you. You'll regret this. I won't. Derek looked at Brandon. She can't have children. You should know that. In case you're thinking of... I know, Brandon interrupted. And it doesn't matter. What matters is that she loves my children and they love her. That's more valuable than anything. Derek's face twisted. You're all fools. He turned and walked away. Vanessa watched his car disappear down the long driveway, and something inside her finally broke free. Are you okay? Brandon asked gently. Vanessa realized she was crying. Yes, I think I really am. He was mean, Trevor said. Very mean, Vanessa agreed. But you told him no, Caleb said. There was respect in his voice. I did. Good, all 4 children said together. Brandon shepherded everyone back inside. The waffles were getting cold, but nobody cared. They all sat around the kitchen table, children chattering, trying to make Vanessa smile. Later, after breakfast, after the kids went outside to play, Brandon found Vanessa alone in the kitchen. That took courage, he said. I didn't feel brave. Bravery isn't not being scared, Brandon said. It's doing the right thing even when you are scared. He called me barren. Like it's the only thing that matters about me. It's not, Brandon said firmly. You're so much more than your ability to have biological children. You're kind, strong, patient, loving. My kids saw that in one night. Why can't your ex-husband see it after 12 years? Because he never really looked. Then he's a fool, Brandon said. And I'm grateful for his foolishness because it brought you here. Vanessa looked up at him. You really don't care? About the infertility? I have 4 children who desperately need a mother figure, Brandon said. And they chose you. That's all that matters to me. They chose me, Vanessa repeated softly. We all did, Brandon said, and his voice held something warm, something deeper than gratitude. Vanessa felt her heart skip. This was her employer. Her boss. She shouldn't be feeling this warmth spreading through her chest. But she was. Thank you, she managed. For standing with me. Always, Brandon promised. Outside, the children's laughter drifted through the open window. Inside, Vanessa felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Spring arrived slowly, bringing with it warmer days and lighter moods. Vanessa had been with the foster family for 2 months, and the house had transformed. Fresh flowers sat on the dining room table. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. Laughter echoed through hallways that had been silent for too long. The children were healing. Trevor didn't have nightmares as often. The twins fought less. Caleb smiled more. They all called for Vanessa first when they came home from school, racing to tell her about their days. And Brandon was different too. He came home earlier now, usually by 6. He sat with the children during dinner, really listening to their stories. He helped with homework, played board games, read bedtime stories. The desperate grief that had shadowed him was still there, but it was softer now, more manageable. He also talked to Vanessa. It started small. Quick conversations while she cooked dinner. Brief exchanges about the children's schedules. But gradually, those conversations grew longer. Deeper. One evening, after the children were in bed, Vanessa found Brandon in the living room staring at a photo album. May I? She asked, gesturing to the couch beside him. Please. The album was full of pictures. Brandon and Lauren on their wedding day. Lauren pregnant with Caleb. All 4 children as babies. Family vacations, birthday parties, ordinary moments made precious by time. She was beautiful, Vanessa said. Inside and out, Brandon agreed. We met in college. She was studying to be a teacher. I was already starting my first company. Everyone said we were too young, too different. But we worked. What was she like? Patient. Creative. She could find joy in anything. When she got sick. His voice broke. Took 18 months. We tried everything. Surgery, chemo, experimental treatments. Nothing worked. And at the end she was in so much pain. Vanessa took his hand. I'm sorry. The kids had to watch her fade away. Trevor barely remembers her healthy. That kills me. But he remembers her love, Vanessa said gently. They all do. Love doesn't die just because someone does. Brandon looked at her. How are you so wise about grief? I'm not. I just know about loss. Vanessa hesitated, then decided to trust him. My parents died when I was 19. Car accident. I was supposed to be in the car with them, but I stayed late at a friend's house. I spent years feeling guilty that I survived. Oh, Vanessa. And then the infertility diagnosis came at 23. I felt broken all over again. Like I'd been spared, but for what? I couldn't even do the one thing women are supposed to do. You know that's not true. Now I do, Vanessa said. But it took me a long time to believe it. What changed? This. She gestured around the house. Your children. They showed me that family isn't just about biology. It's about love and choice and showing up every day. Brandon was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Lauren would have liked you. You think so? I know so. She always said the most important quality in a person is kindness. And you're one of the kindest people I've ever met. Vanessa felt warmth spread through her chest. Thank you. I mean it, Brandon said. You've given us our lives back. I don't know how to repay that. You don't have to repay anything. Being here with your children, it's healing me too. They sat in comfortable silence looking at the photo album. After a while, Brandon closed it and set it aside. Can I ask you something personal? He said. Of course. Do you ever want to try dating again? After your divorce? Vanessa's heart started beating faster. I don't know. Maybe someday. Why? Just curious. Brandon looked away. You're still young. You deserve to be happy. I am happy, Vanessa said. Here. With you and the kids. Brandon looked back at her and something passed between them. Something warm and complicated and new. Good, he said softly. I'm glad you're happy here. The moment stretched. Vanessa knew she should go to her room, should put distance between herself and these feelings growing in her heart. But she didn't want to. "Tell me about your company," she said instead. "You never talk about work." Brandon smiled. "You sure you want to hear about tech startups?" "I'm sure." So he told her. About building his first company in his garage at 22. About the failures and successes. About selling that company and starting another. About the long hours and constant pressure and never feeling like he was enough. "Lauren used to tell me I worked too much," he admitted. "She was right. I thought I had time. I thought we'd have decades together. But cancer doesn't care about your plans. You can't blame yourself for that." "Can't I?" Brandon's voice was rough. "She wanted me to slow down. Spend more time at home. But I kept saying next year, or after this deal closes. And then she got sick and there was no more time." "Brandon," Vanessa said firmly, "you were doing your best. You didn't know." "I should have known. I should have." "You can't change the past," Vanessa interrupted. "But you can change now. And you have. You're home for dinner. You read bedtime stories. You listen to your children. That's what matters." "When did you become my therapist?" Brandon asked, but he was almost smiling. "When you became my friend," Vanessa said simply. "Is that what we are? Friends?" "I think so. Aren't we?" Brandon looked at her for a long moment. "Yeah, we are." But something in his eyes said he wanted more than friendship. And something in Vanessa's heart whispered that she wanted more too. Over the next few weeks they grew closer. They talked every night after the children went to bed. They laughed together over silly things. They shared their fears and hopes and dreams. Brandon told her about the pressure of running a company, about board meetings and investor calls and constant decisions. Vanessa told him about her dreams of having a home that felt safe, of building a life that mattered. "You've already built that," Brandon said one night. "Here. With us." "It's not really mine though," Vanessa said. "I'm the nanny. Eventually the kids will grow up and you won't need me anymore." "Don't say that." "It's true." "What if I don't want it to be true?" Brandon asked. Vanessa's breath caught. "What do you mean?" But before Brandon could answer, Trevor called from upstairs. He'd had a nightmare. The moment was broken. Still, something had shifted between them. Something that felt like the beginning of something beautiful. Let me pause the story here for a moment to ask you something important. Have you ever been in that space between friendship and something more, where every conversation feels charged with possibility? Where you're scared to move forward but even more scared to stay still? That's where Brandon and Vanessa are right now. And what happens next is going to change everything. If you're invested in their journey, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next. And drop a comment telling me, do you think they should take the risk and admit their feelings, or is it too soon? Your opinion matters and I read every comment. It was a Tuesday night in late April when everything fell apart. Caleb had been quiet all day. He barely touched his dinner. When Vanessa tried to help him with homework, he snapped at her. When Brandon asked what was wrong, Caleb said he was fine and went to his room. "Should I go talk to him?" Vanessa asked Brandon. "Give him some space. He gets moody sometimes." But at 10 o'clock, Vanessa heard crying. She went to Caleb's room and knocked softly. "Caleb? Can I come in?" "Go away. Please. I just want to make sure you're okay." Silence. Then, "Fine. Come in." Caleb was sitting on his bed, arms wrapped around his knees, tears streaming down his face. The photo of his mother sat on his nightstand, and he was staring at it like it held all the answers. Vanessa sat beside him but didn't touch him. "Want to talk about it?" "You'll think I'm terrible." "I won't." "You don't know that." "Try me," Vanessa said gently. Caleb was quiet for a long time. Then, in a broken whisper, he said, "It's my fault Mom died." Vanessa's heart cracked. "Oh, Caleb, no." "It is," he insisted. "She was so sick. She hurt all the time. And one night I prayed. I asked God to make it stop. I prayed for her pain to end." His voice rose. "And 2 days later she died. I killed her. I prayed for her to die and God listened." "That's not what happened." "How do you know?" Caleb shouted. "You weren't there. You didn't see her suffering. You didn't hear her cry when she thought we were asleep. She was in so much pain and I couldn't help her and I just wanted it to stop and—" He dissolved into sobs. Vanessa pulled him into her arms and he didn't resist. He cried into her shoulder like the little boy he still was, carrying a weight no child should ever carry. "Listen to me," Vanessa said firmly. "Your mother's death was not your fault. Cancer killed her. Not your prayers. Not your love. Cancer. But I asked for it to end. You asked for her suffering to end, Vanessa corrected. That's not the same as wanting her to die. That's compassion, Caleb. That's love. You saw someone you loved hurting and you wanted her pain to stop. That's human. That's beautiful. I should have prayed for her to get better. Everyone did. I'm sure your mom prayed for that too. But sometimes prayers aren't answered the way we want them to be. That doesn't mean they weren't heard. Caleb pulled back, looking at her with red, swollen eyes. Do you really believe that? I do. Did you pray when your parents died? Yes, Vanessa said honestly. I prayed for them to survive. I prayed for a miracle. I prayed for time to turn back so I'd be in that car with them. And none of those prayers were answered the way I wanted. So God doesn't listen? I think God listens, Vanessa said carefully. But I also think that bad things happen in this world that aren't part of any plan. People get sick. Accidents happen. And we're left trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. That's not fair. You're right. It's not. Caleb leaned against her. I miss her so much. I know you do. Sometimes I can't remember what she sounded like. Her voice. It's fading and I can't get it back. That's normal, Vanessa said. But you know what doesn't fade? The love. She loved you so much, Caleb. And that love is still here. It's in the way you take care of your siblings. It's in your kind heart. It's in every good thing about you. You think she'd be proud of me? I know she would be. They sat together for a while, Caleb's breathing slowly returning to normal. Can I ask you something? Caleb said quietly. Anything. Do you think you'll stay? With us? I'm not planning to go anywhere. But you're just the nanny, Caleb said. Eventually you'll leave. Everyone leaves. Vanessa's throat tightened. Is that what you're afraid of? The last 6 nannies left. They said we were too much. Too broken. Too hard to deal with. You're not broken, Vanessa said fiercely. You're hurting. There's a difference. And I'm not leaving. Not unless you want me to. I don't want you to. Then I'll stay. Promise? I promise. Caleb hugged her tight. I love you, Vanessa. It was the first time any of the children had said those words to her. Vanessa felt tears stream down her face. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. There was a sound from the doorway. Brandon stood there and he'd clearly heard everything. His eyes were wet. Dad, Caleb said, suddenly embarrassed. Brandon came into the room and knelt beside the bed. I heard what you said. About your prayer. And I want you to listen to me very carefully. Caleb nodded. Your mother's death was not your fault, Brandon said, his voice steady despite the tears. Cancer took her from us. Not you. Not God. A terrible disease that we couldn't stop no matter how hard we tried. But I prayed for it to end. So did I, Brandon admitted. Near the end, when the pain was so bad and there was nothing more the doctors could do, I prayed for it to end too. Does that make me a murderer? No, Caleb said quickly. Then why would it make you one? Caleb didn't have an answer. Your mother loved you more than anything, Brandon continued. In her last days, you know what she talked about? You kids. She made me promise to take care of you, to make sure you knew how much she loved you, to tell you that none of this was your fault. And I failed at that. I got so lost in my own grief that I didn't see yours. I'm sorry. It's okay, Dad. It's not okay. But I'm going to do better. Brandon pulled Caleb into a hug. We're going to get through this together. All of us. As a family. Vanessa quietly started to leave to give them privacy. Stay, Brandon said, looking up at her. Please. You're part of this family too. So Vanessa stayed. The 3 of them sat together in Caleb's room, talking about Lauren, sharing memories, crying and laughing in equal measure. And for the first time since Lauren's death, Caleb's burden felt a little lighter. Later, after Caleb finally fell asleep, Brandon walked Vanessa to her room. Thank you, he said, for knowing exactly what to say. I just told him the truth. You saved him tonight, Brandon said. He's been carrying that guilt for 2 years and I never knew. But you, in one conversation, you helped him see it wasn't his fault. He needed to hear it from you too. We make a good team, Brandon said softly. We do. They stood in the hallway, close enough that Vanessa could feel the warmth radiating from him. Close enough that if either of them moved just a little, they'd be touching. Vanessa, Brandon started. I need to tell you something. Okay. These past few months having you here, it's changed everything. The kids are happier. The house feels like a home again. And he paused. I'm happier too. Because of you. Vanessa's heart was racing. Brandon? I know this is complicated. You work for me. You're the kid's nanny. But somewhere along the way you became more than that. You became my friend. My confidant. The person I want to talk to at the end of every day. I feel that too, Vanessa admitted. I don't want to mess this up, Brandon said. But I also can't pretend I don't feel what I'm feeling. What are you feeling? Brandon looked at her with such intensity that Vanessa felt her breath catch. I'm falling for you, he said simply. And I think I have been since that night in the park when you helped us find our way home. Vanessa didn't know what to say. Her head was spinning. Her heart was full. You don't have to say anything, Brandon continued. I just needed you to know. And if it's too much, if you need time or space or... Vanessa reached out and took his hand. It's not too much. No. I'm falling for you too, she whispered. Brandon's face transformed. Hope and joy and relief all at once. Really? Really? So what do we do now? I don't know, Vanessa admitted. This is all so new and complicated and... We'll figure it out, Brandon promised. Together. The way we figure everything else out. Together, Vanessa agreed. He squeezed her hand gently, then let go. Good night, Vanessa. Good night, Brandon. Vanessa went into her room, closed the door and leaned against it. She was falling in love with her employer. With a widower. With a father of 4. It was complicated and messy and probably unwise. But it also felt like the most right thing in the world. 3 days later, everything changed in an instant. It was a Friday evening. Brandon was at a late meeting. Vanessa had made tacos for dinner, and the children were laughing around the table when Trevor suddenly went quiet. My tummy hurts, he said. Did you eat too fast? Vanessa asked. I don't know. Trevor's face was pale. Within minutes he was burning with fever. Vanessa took his temperature. 104.2 degrees. Okay, she said, trying to stay calm. Caleb, call your dad. Tell him we need to take Trevor to the hospital. Natalie, get your shoes on. We're all going. She called an ambulance while scooping Trevor into her arms. He was limp, barely conscious. Stay with me, buddy, she whispered. Stay with me. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes. The paramedics took Trevor immediately, and Vanessa climbed in after him. The twins and Caleb followed in a separate car that a neighbor drove. At the hospital, they rushed Trevor to the emergency room. Vanessa held his hand while doctors examined him, asked questions, ran tests. We need to run blood work and do a CT scan, one doctor said. It could be appendicitis or an infection or... Vanessa called Brandon. He answered on the first ring. Trevor's sick, she said, her voice shaking. We're at Memorial Hospital. You need to come now. I'm on my way. The next few hours were a blur. Tests. Waiting. More tests. The twins fell asleep in uncomfortable chairs. Caleb sat rigid, his face pale. Vanessa held Trevor's hand and prayed to a God she wasn't sure was listening. Brandon arrived 40 minutes later, still in his suit, his hair wild from running through the parking lot. Where is he? What happened? Is he okay? They're still running tests, Vanessa said. They think it might be his appendix. Brandon's face went white. Lauren's cancer started with stomach pain. This isn't that, Vanessa said firmly. This is different. You don't know that. I know Trevor. And I know this is going to be okay. Brandon looked at her with desperate eyes. I can't lose another person I love. I can't. I'll break. You're not going to lose him, Vanessa said. But even if you did, you wouldn't break. You'd bend, but you wouldn't break. Because you're stronger than you think. A doctor came out. Mr. Foster? Yes. It's his appendix. It's inflamed but hasn't ruptured yet. We need to do surgery immediately. Surgery? Brandon repeated numbly. It's routine, the doctor assured him. We do dozens of these procedures every week. He'll be fine. They wheeled Trevor to the operating room. He was barely conscious, but he reached for Vanessa as they took him away. Vanessa, he slurred. Stay. I'll be right here when you wake up, she promised. I'm not going anywhere. The surgery took 2 hours. Brandon paced the waiting room. Vanessa sat with the other children, keeping them calm. Caleb was quiet. The twins were scared. Trevor's going to be okay, right? Nadia asked. Yes, sweetheart. The doctors are very good. But what if something goes wrong? Natalie whispered. Then we deal with it, Vanessa said. But we're not going to borrow trouble. We're going to have faith. Brandon heard this and stopped pacing. He came and sat beside Vanessa, taking her hand without a word. They sat like that, connected while their children slept and time crawled by. I'm terrified, Brandon admitted quietly. So am I. But you don't show it. Someone has to be strong, Vanessa said. We can take turns falling apart later. Brandon almost smiled. How did I get so lucky to find you? I think we found each other. Finally the doctor came out. The surgery went perfectly. Trevor's appendix was about to rupture, so it's good you brought him in when you did. He'll need to stay here for a few days, but he's going to be fine. Brandon's legs nearly gave out. Vanessa caught him, held him steady. Thank you, Brandon told the doctor. Thank you so much. They let Brandon and Vanessa see Trevor first. He was asleep in the recovery room, small and pale under white sheets, but breathing steadily. Brandon touched his son's forehead gently. He's okay. He's okay, Vanessa agreed. Brandon turned to her and suddenly pulled her into his arms. She held him while he shook with relief and leftover fear. I was so scared, he said into her hair. I know. Me too. When they took him into surgery, all I could think was that I never told him enough that I love him. That I've been working too much again. That I might lose him without him knowing how important he is. He knows, Vanessa said. You've been showing him every day. Brandon pulled back, his hands on her shoulders. And you? If you hadn't been there tonight, if you hadn't known something was wrong, if you hadn't called the ambulance. But I was there. And I did. Because you love him, Brandon said. The way a mother loves her child. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I do love him. I love all of them. I know you do. And they love you. Brandon paused. And so do I. Vanessa's breath caught. What? I love you, Vanessa, Brandon said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. I've probably loved you since that first night, but I was too scared to admit it. Life is too short to hide from what you feel. Lauren taught me that. And tonight reminded me again. Brandon, You don't have to say it back, he said quickly. I just needed you to know. Whatever happens next, whatever you decide, I needed you to know how I feel. I love you too, Vanessa said. The words came easily, like they'd been waiting to be spoken. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again. I thought I was too broken. But you and your children, you put me back together. Brandon cupped her face in his hands. Can I kiss you? Here? Now. Here. Now. Because life is short and I don't want to wait another second. Vanessa nodded. Brandon kissed her softly, gently, like she was precious and fragile and everything good. Vanessa kissed him back, pouring 2 months of growing feelings into this one perfect moment. When they pulled apart, both were crying and smiling. What do we do now? Vanessa asked. We go tell the other kids that Trevor's okay, Brandon said. And then we figure out the rest as we go. Together. Together, Vanessa agreed. They walked back to the waiting room hand in hand. The children looked up, saw their faces and knew before they said anything. Trevor's okay? Caleb asked. He's okay, Brandon confirmed. He came through surgery perfectly. The twins burst into tears of relief. Caleb's shoulders sagged. Vanessa gathered all 3 children into a hug while Brandon watched with wet eyes. Can we see him? Nadia asked. Soon, Vanessa promised. As soon as he wakes up. They stayed at the hospital all night. Brandon pulled strings to get a bigger room with extra chairs. The children slept in various positions. Brandon and Vanessa stayed awake, watching over all of them. This is our family, Brandon said quietly. Isn't it? Yes, Vanessa said. I think it is. When Trevor woke up the next morning, groggy and confused, the first thing he saw was Vanessa. You stayed, he mumbled. I promised, didn't I? Love you, Trevor said and fell back asleep. Brandon squeezed Vanessa's hand. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As a family. Trevor came home from the hospital 3 days later, showered with so much attention from his siblings that he milked it for all it was worth. Caleb, can you get me juice? I had surgery. Nadia, can you change the channel? I had surgery. Dad, can I have ice cream for breakfast? I had surgery. The surgery card only works for another day, Brandon warned, but he was smiling. Life returned to normal slowly. Trevor healed. The other children went back to school. Brandon and Vanessa navigated their new relationship carefully, not wanting to move too fast or confuse the children. But everyone already knew something had changed. Dad smiles more, Natalie observed one morning at breakfast. Because Vanessa makes him happy, Nadia said matter-of-factly. She makes all of us happy, Caleb added. Trevor just nodded, mouth full of pancakes. 2 weeks after the hospital stay, on a sunny Saturday in May, Brandon asked Vanessa to walk with him in the garden. The estate's garden was beautiful this time of year. Roses bloomed in every color. The grass was green and soft. A stone path wound through carefully tended beds. Brandon led Vanessa to a bench under a willow tree. "The kids are watching us from the window," Vanessa said, amused. Brandon glanced back at the house. 4 faces quickly ducked out of sight. "Let them watch. You're making them curious." "Good. They should be." Brandon took both her hands. "Vanessa, these past few months with you have been the happiest of my life since Lauren died. You've brought light back into our home. You've helped my children heal. You've helped me heal." "You've helped me too," Vanessa said softly. "I know we haven't been together long as a couple," Brandon continued. "But I also know that time isn't what matters. What matters is that I can't imagine my life without you in it. What matters is that my children love you. What matters is that I love you." Vanessa's heart was racing. She knew what was coming. Brandon slid off the bench and knelt on the ground. "Oh," Vanessa whispered. From his pocket, Brandon pulled out a small blue box. Inside was a ring, simple and beautiful, with a single diamond that caught the sunlight. "Vanessa Wright, will you marry me? Will you be my wife and the mother to my children? Will you build a life with us, not as our nanny but as part of our family?" Tears streamed down Vanessa's face. This moment, this question, it was everything she'd never thought she'd have. "Yes," she said through her tears. "Yes, yes, yes." Brandon slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into his arms. They held each other while the garden bloomed around them. From the house, 4 children erupted into cheers. Brandon and Vanessa looked up to see Caleb, Nadia, Natalie, and Trevor hanging out the window, jumping and screaming with joy. "I guess they approve," Vanessa said, laughing. "I told them I was going to propose," Brandon admitted. "They'd been planning the wedding for days." "Of course they have." The children came running out, still in their pajamas, tumbling over each other in their excitement. "You said yes," Trevor shouted, launching himself at Vanessa. "I said yes," she confirmed, catching him. "So you're going to be our real mom?" Nadia asked. "If that's okay with you." "It's more than okay," Caleb said. "It's perfect. Can we call you Mom?" Natalie asked shyly. Vanessa's throat tightened with emotion. "I would love that." All 4 children piled onto her and Brandon, creating a tangle of arms and legs and happy tears. "This is the best day ever," Trevor declared. "Wait until the wedding," Nadia said. "I'm planning the flowers." "I'm planning the music," Natalie countered. "I'll be Dad's best man," Caleb announced. "You can all help," Brandon said, laughing. "It's going to be a family wedding." They spent the rest of the morning in the garden talking about plans and dreams. The children wanted the wedding soon. Brandon wanted something small and meaningful. Vanessa just wanted to marry this man and officially become part of this family. "What about your ex-husband?" Caleb asked suddenly. "Will he be mad?" "I don't care if he's mad," Vanessa said honestly. "He gave up his chance to have me in his life. That's his loss, not mine." "Our gain," Brandon said, kissing her forehead. That afternoon they called Brandon's parents and told them the news. They were surprised but supportive, happy to see their son happy again. Brandon's mother cried when she heard how much the children loved Vanessa. "Lauren would want this," she said. "She'd want you all to be happy again." "I think so too," Brandon agreed. Over the next week, the house was full of wedding plans. The children drew pictures of what the ceremony should look like. Brandon worked with a wedding planner to make it happen quickly. Vanessa called the few friends she had left from her old life to share the news. One of those friends was Rita from the diner. "I knew it," Rita said when Vanessa told her. "That first day he walked in looking for you, I knew something special was happening." "Thank you for giving me that job," Vanessa said. "If I hadn't been working there, he might never have found me." "Everything happens for a reason, honey. You were meant to find that family." Vanessa also had to make one difficult call. She called the women's shelter where she'd stayed after her divorce. She talked to Sandra, the social worker who'd helped her. "I'm getting married," Vanessa told her. "To a wonderful man with 4 beautiful children. And I wanted you to know that your kindness that night when I had nowhere to go, it mattered. It gave me hope when I had none." Sandra was crying. "I'm so happy for you. You deserve this. Every woman who comes through your doors deserves this," Vanessa said. "Deserves to know their story isn't over. That good things can still happen." "I'll tell them," Sandra promised. "Your story will give them hope." 3 weeks after the proposal, on a perfect June evening, Vanessa and Brandon got married in the garden under the willow tree. It was a small ceremony. Just family and close friends. But it was perfect. Vanessa wore a simple white dress. Brandon wore a navy suit. All 4 children stood with them during the ceremony. Caleb held the rings. The twins scattered flower petals. Trevor was the ring bearer, taking his job very seriously despite being only 5. When the minister asked who gave Vanessa to be married, all 4 children shouted together, "We do." Everyone laughed. Brandon took Vanessa's hands. "I promise to love you every day," he said. "To choose you every day. To build a life with you that honors the past while embracing the future." "I promise to love your children as my own," Vanessa said. "To create a home full of warmth and laughter. To be your partner in all things." They exchanged rings. They kissed. And when they turned to face their guests, the children tackled them in a group hug. "We're a family now," Trevor announced. "A real family." "We've always been a real family," Vanessa said. "This just makes it official." The reception was in the garden. There was dancing and cake and speeches that made everyone cry. Vanessa's friends from the shelter came and cheered the loudest. Brandon's business partners were there, surprised by how different he seemed but happy for him. Late in the evening, Vanessa found herself alone for a moment, watching Brandon dance with the twins while Caleb and Trevor played tag nearby. Rita from the diner came to stand beside her. "You look happy," Rita observed. "I am happy," Vanessa said. "I didn't think I could be this happy." "You deserve it. After everything you went through." "I needed to go through it," Vanessa said slowly, "to appreciate this. If I hadn't been divorced, if I hadn't been at my lowest point, I never would have been in that park that night. I never would have helped them. I never would have found my family." "That's a beautiful way to look at it." "It's the only way," Vanessa said. "The pain had purpose. It led me here." As if sensing her thoughts, Brandon looked over and smiled. He said something to the twins, then walked over and offered Vanessa his hand. "Dance with me, Mrs. Foster?" "I'd love to, Mr. Foster." They danced while their children watched, while their friends celebrated, while the sun set over the garden where they'd built their new beginning. "I love you," Brandon whispered in her ear. "I love you too," Vanessa said. "All of you. Forever." It wasn't the ending Vanessa had expected for her story, but it was so much better than anything she could have imagined. 3 months after the wedding, Derek saw the announcement in the local newspaper. He was drinking coffee at a downtown cafe when someone left the society section on the table. There, in full color, was a photo from the reception. Brandon and Vanessa, surrounded by 4 happy children, all of them laughing. The headline read, "Tech CEO Brandon Foster marries in intimate garden ceremony." The article described Vanessa as the devoted mother to Foster's 4 children, and mentioned that the children had participated in the ceremony, calling it a beautiful celebration of family. Derek stared at the photo for a long time. Vanessa looked radiant. Happy. Nothing like the broken woman who'd left his house 6 months ago. The children clearly adored her. And Brandon Foster looked at her the way Derek had never looked at anyone. Like she was the answer to every question. Derek crumpled the paper and threw it in the trash. He tried to feel angry, but mostly he just felt hollow. He'd thrown away 12 years with a good woman because she couldn't give him something that, in the end, didn't matter at all. And now she had everything. A family. Children who loved her. A husband who valued her. All the things Derek had convinced her she didn't deserve. He walked out of the cafe and didn't look back. Vanessa never knew about Derek seeing the announcement. She was too busy living her new life to worry about her old one. The months after the wedding were an adjustment. Vanessa had to learn to be a wife again, but this time to a man who actually loved her. She had to officially become a mother to 4 children who needed her in different ways. Caleb, now 11, still struggled sometimes. He had nightmares about his mom. He worried about losing people he loved. But Vanessa was always there to talk him through it. And slowly, he learned to trust that good things could last. The twins, Nadia and Natalie, now 9, were easier in some ways and harder in others. They fought like cats but loved each other fiercely. They tested Vanessa's patience daily but also made her laugh more than anyone else. Trevor, now 6, called Vanessa Mom from day one and never looked back. He was the easiest of the 4, content to just be near her, to know she wasn't going anywhere. Brandon, for his part, became a different kind of husband and father. He still worked hard, but he came home for dinner every night. He went to school plays and soccer games. He read bedtime stories. He was present. "Lauren would be proud of you," Vanessa told him one night as they sat in the living room, children finally asleep upstairs. "You think so?" "I know so. You're the father she wanted you to be." "Only because of you," Brandon said. "You saved this family." "We saved each other," Vanessa corrected. That's what families do. They celebrated every milestone together. Caleb's middle school graduation. The twins' first dance recital. Trevor learning to read. Brandon's company going public. Vanessa's decision to go back to school and become a teacher. Are you sure? Brandon asked when she told him. You don't have to work. I make enough for all of us. I know, Vanessa said. But I want to. Those kids at the shelter, the ones who don't have stable homes, I want to be there for them the way people were there for me. Then do it, Brandon said. I'll support you completely. 2 years after the wedding, on a crisp fall evening, the whole family gathered in the living room for movie night. It was a Friday tradition now. Everyone picked a movie, they made popcorn, and they piled onto the couches together. Tonight, Trevor had picked an animated movie about a fish finding his family. Caleb groaned but didn't actually complain. The twins settled in with blankets. Brandon and Vanessa sat in the middle, children arranged around them like satellites. Halfway through the movie, Trevor climbed into Vanessa's lap even though he was getting too big for that. Mom, he whispered. Yeah, buddy? Remember when you found us in the park that time? I remember. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you stayed. Me too, baby. Me too. After the movie ended and the children went to bed, Brandon and Vanessa stood in the doorway of each room, looking at their sleeping kids. They're getting so big, Vanessa said. I know. Time goes too fast. Are you happy? Vanessa asked suddenly. Brandon looked at her in surprise. Why would you ask that? I just want to make sure that this is what you wanted. That I'm what you wanted. Brandon pulled her close. You're everything I wanted and more. Everything we all wanted. You filled the hole in this family that I didn't think could ever be filled. Lauren filled it first, Vanessa said. I'm just continuing her love. You're doing more than that, Brandon said. You're creating your own love. Your own legacy. And someday when these kids are grown, they're going to remember that there was a woman who chose to love them even though she didn't have to. They're going to remember that family isn't just about blood. Vanessa rested her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd have this. Children. A family. A life that feels complete. Derek was wrong about you, Brandon said. You're not broken. You never were. I know that now. They stood there in the hallway, listening to the quiet sounds of their sleeping children, grateful for second chances and new beginnings. Years passed. The children grew. Caleb went to high school, then college. The twins became teenagers, all attitude and energy. Trevor lost his baby face and became a thoughtful young man. Through it all, Vanessa and Brandon were there. Together. Building a life. Creating memories. Loving fiercely. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows in the same garden where they'd first married. All 4 children, now teenagers and young adults, stood with them again. 10 years ago, Brandon said, looking at Vanessa with the same love he'd had on their wedding day, I was a broken man with 4 broken kids. You came into our lives and you put us back together. Not by fixing us but by loving us exactly as we were. And 10 years ago, Vanessa said, tears streaming down her face, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd never be a mother, never have a family. But you showed me that family isn't about biology. It's about choice. It's about showing up every day and choosing to love. They kissed while their children cheered. That night, after the party ended and the guests went home, Vanessa sat on the porch with a cup of tea watching the stars. Brandon found her there. What are you thinking about? He asked. That frozen bench, Vanessa said. The night I met you. I was at my lowest point. I thought my life was over. And now? Now I realize that wasn't an ending, Vanessa said. It was a beginning. The beginning of everything that mattered. Brandon sat beside her and took her hand. I'm glad you were on that bench. I'm glad we got lost. I'm glad Trevor cried and Caleb was scared and we stumbled into your life. I'm glad too, Vanessa said. Because you taught me something important. What's that? That sometimes the family you think you're too broken for is exactly the family that can love you whole again. They sat together in comfortable silence, these 2 people who'd found each other in the darkest moments and built something beautiful from their broken pieces. Inside the house, their children were laughing. Outside, the garden bloomed. And in this moment, in this life they'd created together, everything was exactly as it should be. Vanessa had been told for 12 years that she was worthless because she couldn't have children. But in the end, she became a mother to 4 beautiful kids who chose her as much as she chose them. She'd been told she was broken. But really, she'd just been waiting for the right family to show her she'd been whole all along. This was her happy ending. No, not an ending. A beginning. The beginning of a life filled with love, hope, and endless second chances. And it all started with a lonely widower for hurting children, and a frozen bench in a December park where one woman's compassion changed everything.